Hey there. Today's video is the first in a series of interviews I'll be doing with some great saxophone players. I caught up with Johnny Bones, the sax player with the California Honey Drops, which is one of my very favorite bands. We met up outside the Bowery Ballroom in New York City just before the concert. Johnny talks about his journey as a saxophone player, some of his musical influences, especially on the saxophone, and some of the stuff he's been practicing lately, as well as lots of other great stuff. I also made a YouTube playlist out of some of the names we talk about in the interview. This is a great place to start if you're interested in working on your saxophone R&B style. I highly recommend everybody give it a listen. If you want to hear more from the California Honey Drops, check the links in the description below. And if you like this kind of video and this kind of content, please let me know by clicking the like button and subscribing.
Background about yourself and tell us how you ended up as a saxophone player.
Ooh, as a saxophone player.
Yeah, you know, like
it's funny, you know. I liked music early on, so I started playing a little piano in like 4th grade. Trombone in school. Me and all my friends started trombone together in 6th grade. Somebody just came out on the yard when we were playing frisbee, and they needed trombone players, and he paid our instrument fee.
Okay.
So we all
like that bad they needed to.
He was a visionary.
Oh,
so
right,
he was like, when you guys get to high school, there's going to be no trombone. So I'm going to get you started, which didn't work out because none of us played trombone by the time I hit high school.
Right, okay.
But I was playing in 6th grade. I think what happened to me, because I can't remember it as a conscious moment, but my brother was 6 years older than me, and he was a friend of Josh Redman, and he went to the high school in Berkeley High. I was in Berkeley.
Okay.
And I think I remember going to see that band. I remember thinking he was bad. He was a bad boy even in high school.
Right, yeah.
He was always such a great saxophone player, very natural.
Yeah.
I think I heard that saxophone, and between 6th and 7th grade,
You made a switch.
yeah, I was bugging him because they would be playing tennis, and he had a little alto under his bed, and he gave me an alto to learn on, that he had learned
Your
on.
brother?
Josh.
Oh, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How about that?
So I just started trying to learn alto. I mean, he was too busy, so he didn't really show me anything. He just gave me the horn.
That's interesting to know how you came up through the school thing.
Yeah.
You know.
But it was funny, man. I'll tell you the truth, because the Berkeley High program is really focused on like very modern, straight ahead jazz.
Yeah.
And so I sort of took that direction just by the influences around me, but I was feeling a little empty myself, personally. So I had my whole musical process has been just kind of very personal to my own experience. It's like a long process, you know, where I got a scholarship to Berklee College of Music, and left high school early and went to Berklee College, but I wasn't really feeling the way they were teaching for me. Nothing against it, it just wasn't resonating. The environment for me wasn't working. And kind of got disillusioned with music for a little, and then in my early 20s, I just got really into really early jazz, really early, like Billie Holiday with Lester Young, and 30s and 20s music, and I sort of had a revelation of connection to my soul. Because I used to play with some really good straight-ahead bands and really good straight-ahead players at Berklee College, but I would always leave those gigs feeling personally a little confused. I didn't feel a super connection to the maybe the artistic direction.
You know, I totally hear what you're saying.
So I had a kind of it was just sort of a coalescence of things for me that led me in this other direction. So in my 20s, I had a band, Johnny Bones and the Palace of Jazz, that was really influenced by Jelly Roll Morton, and really influenced by Duke Ellington's Cotton Club Band, but also my own compositions, 4 horns, all acoustic, you know, gut string bass, and you know.
How did that happen? Like, how did you get into that? Did you meet somebody, or did you just? How did that happen?
It was a course of things. I mean, I was playing an event at the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco with a trio or a quartet, and there was a big event. We were in the cocktail area, and in the main hall there was an opera singer with a piano player. And I got there early, and I saw the opera singer and the piano player, and they were walking down the aisle afterwards. And I told the piano player, I said, "Oh, man, it sounded awesome. You know, come out and listen to some jazz with my quartet." So I expect him to come over, and he walked over. You know, like third song I'm playing, Squatty Roo, the Johnny Hodges song.
Okay,
And he walks over, and we finished the song. He said, "What's the name of that song again?" And I said, "Squatty Roo. You know, it's named for Johnny Hodges, the alto player with Duke Ellington." And he said, "You like Duke Ellington? Man, I have all the old 78s." And he's a crazy record collector. So we're like, this is like my best friend now.
Okay.
Brendan Haspin. He's like, you know, my soul brother. But I started going to his house and just recording old records, old 78s of, you know, all kinds of stuff. You know,
That's
Tiny
amazing.
Parham and you know, all these old 20s bands. And just going wacko. I would make a tape from his 78s, put them on at my house, and just...
So that music just spoke to you, like you was hearing it and just being like, wow, there's something there.
I was waking up all night dancing around my house.
You kind of feel like this was the thing that was missing for me.
It's hard for me to like rationalize and intellect. You know what I mean? I'm an emotional person, so like, you know, I just know when I'm like, if I don't like some music, it's hard for me to even play the horn. I just get kind of, you know, I'm not like a technical. I'm trying to become more technical, but I'm more emotional. So yeah, I just was like, yeah. I used to like think that like jazz, it was like an incompleteness for me a little bit. Like I would go play with a reggae band or a different band. It would be like a nice party, and then the jazz gigs would be more, you know, cafe style, more listening. And somehow when I found that music, it was like a coalescence of jazz harmonies and melodies, but also dancing
with the audience.
Yeah,
and,
and everything united in a whole wholesomeness. Felt very wholesome, you know.
What are your biggest sources of inspiration, whether they be musicians, saxophone players, or anything, you know?
I like some of the early jazz players, but I also really love the early R&B. That's a big flavor of saxophone playing that I'm fond of. You know, like that song Honky Tonk with the Bill Doggett band, Clifford Scott. Okay. That whole early 50, maybe 54 to 56, Clifford Scott. That's the shit. That's the shit. Lee Allen on all the New Orleans stuff. Like he was on all the, you know, Lee Allen on. He's on all the Little Richard hits, but he's also on all the Professor Longhair stuff. You know, Paul Gate and stuff. He was in that house band at Cosmo Macassa's in New Orleans. So it's like the early R&B sound is something that I relate to. It's like a little bit like you're just coming out of jazz, so that the sound's still kind of on the darker side and a little bit lower register, but it's moving into an R&B style of music. But it isn't like Junior Walker or King Curtis yet. It's not like with the heavy guitar, where the saxophone's got real bright and higher register to cut through the mix, which is cool. It's just, I like that too. Like, Junior Walker's killer, and I try to learn some of his stuff too, and King Curtis, but I think my home space, some of those other players, every time I'll put a mix on, and I'll forget about Lee Allen, I'll put him on a mixtape, and then it comes in, and I just get these tingles up my spine. I'm like, ooh. Beast,
okay,
man.
So that's the sort of stuff maybe you transcribe and you.
I've learned tons of those. I've learned like a bunch of their songs and solos, and I learned a bunch of Lester Young. I mean,
and Lester Young too. Okay.
Oh yeah, Lester Young is way up there.
Yeah, okay.
Beyond all, but yeah.
And David Fathead Newman.
I like Fathead. Yeah. I learned a lot of Fathead. He's unique. You know, a lot of the original solos on the Ray Charles records were. Don Wilkerson.
Okay.
He played the original solo on I Got a Woman, Hallelujah, I Love Her So. And then Fathead played those solos because they became part of the arrangement.
Okay.
But he has his own flavor on them because he has a little like more bite to his sound, and he has a little bit of like bebop rhythms.
Yeah.
In Fathead's playing that's different from Wilkerson's approach. It's a little more on the beat, but I like both of them equal. I might like Don Wilkerson a little better. Okay. Don Wilkerson is different. We played a Don Wilkerson song last night. We've been doing an instrumental of his with the band called Moving Out.
Okay.
It's a really cool instrumental. It's kind of rare, but it's killer.
Just because, that's the only reason I know. Yeah, somebody only.
one band from history of music to have played in, not necessarily on the saxophone.
Oh, wow.
What would that be?
Oh, wow.
Any music, you know, just for fun.
For fun. Oh, man. I mean, you know, I think it would probably be that band, that house band, that R&B band, Cosmo Matassa's house band.
Okay, now I want to know a little bit more about your band now, the California Honey Drops. Maybe can you tell like how you came to be in that band? You know, all the stories about that.
Yeah. Well, those cats, I joined, you know, the singer Lesh, and Ben, the drummer, started that group with two other people. And I grew up with the cat that played trumpet, Eric Jacobson, in the Bay. We grew up since high school. He went to a different junior high, but we met in high school, and we played jazz together. And he's a bad trumpet player, man. Bad cat. He's a straight-ahead cat. He lived in New Orleans for 5 years and lived in New York for a while. Kind of can cover a lot of bases. And he told me about Lesh as a trumpet player because he saw I love playing the early stuff, and he heard Lesh playing all the Louis, because he plays a lot of Louis on the trumpet. And I was doing some gigs with my Palace of Jazz, and he said, you should try playing with this trumpet player when I can't make it or something. So I played a gig with Lesh, and we just hit it off from the first gig. And that was about half a year into when he was doing the Honey Drops.
Yeah.
So that's when we met. I didn't know about the Honey Drops, but we met. And then he said, oh, come sit in with my band, you know. And we started just kind of making music together. You know how it is when you meet somebody and you have a music synthesis, you like similar stuff. Yeah. And the new one we've been working on for like a year and a half is a double record. And it's definitely like, it's a whole new thing. I love it. I think it's like the most, you know, thorough, I don't know, just the most interesting recording we've done, and really totally new.
What can you tell us about that record? Because I'm sure I can't wait to get it.
It's cool. It's just like we've always been a really killing live band. We've always been able to interact with the crowd and make the room happen, and that's kind of where we started, from like making parties happen and making connections happen and making grooves happen together. But there's a different thing to recording, and so it's been a process for us to kind of grow as a recorded band. How to make, you know, where you put your mic, what type of mic you use, how to make it sound the way you have it in your head.
Yeah,
and
it
I
takes
think
a lot of work.
It's another way of thinking, and it's been a long time for us, but I think we took it to a different level this time. We really got into which room we were recording, how we were doing it, how to get the thing to translate onto the recording the way it is, and have those same kind of feelings when you listen to a record that you have live. So we're trying to really kind of expand on some of our little worlds that we like a little further, you know, on this record.
So double album meaning like it's like how many
16
tracks?
tracks.
16 tracks?
Yeah, a more acoustic side and a more electric side.
And when is that?
Probably, I don't know the release date, but maybe we're finishing mixing. So we've tracked, it's like March.
Early next year?
Yeah.
All right, so like you're on the road, and I know being on the road, there's not a lot of time to practice, keep your chops up. Do you do a warm-up daily, or do you have anything you try to fit in that's, you know, quick that you can just do?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I do. You can find, I mean, this tour is easier. When you're on a bus, it's easier. Because the bus drives overnight, you sleep on it, and then you wake up, you're there. Like tomorrow, we're driving tonight. We'll be in Cambridge, you wake up at 11, your sound check's not till 4. So you have 5 hours. So some guys go for a run or this. I'm always on my practice. So I'll find a parking lot or an alley, and
all right, that's really interesting. You know, because I know a lot of saxophone players. I mean, this is like I don't want to call it an excuse, but this is like something, an inhibitor for a lot of people. Like practice, where to practice.
Oh, you can always find a park. Just pull up your maps and anywhere. I've always practiced pretty hard, but like I've been in a good zone lately. I mean, I'm trying to go back and sort of. I mean, I've been on like some real technical things because I just like sometimes you go through cycles. Like you might be in a phase where more like creative, like transcribing and trying to kind of refine your phrasing or your
language.
Your language. And other times it's just like octave slurs and like tuner or like your articulation. So right now I'm in a I barely like listen to music. I just like wake up. So I do vocals. I do vocals first. I sing for like about 45 minutes. I've been working on that. Because when I was a kid, I never wanted to sing. I was like, I play, sing your parts, put my horn in my mouth, but it's helping me a lot connect to music differently through the voice.
Okay.
So I do a vocals, and then I've been working on flute. So I usually do flute before saxophone, just because it's kind of hard to go the other way around.
Yeah.
Because of like the lip and stuff. So.
That was actually one of my other questions they didn't ask you, is do you play other instruments? So
play. I'm working on that. It's new. It's new. It's new for me. But so I do a whole bunch of drills on the flute.
The classical stuff.
Octave slurs and mostly long tones.
Yeah.
And then some scales. And some scales, and then like 3 octave slurs. I have like a little routine.
Yeah.
This takes like a half hour, and then I'll play the saxophone. But my saxophone routine's a little bit all over the place. But I've been trying to do the long tones, different volume. Maybe one day do them all quiet, do them all long, or do crescendos or diminuendos. I like to do octave slurs, just to I'm trying to work a lot on tuning. I just try to work on different things.
Sure.
What else on the saxophone? My hand position's not that good, so I was getting real tight. So I've been trying to work that out. So I'll just do scales, and I'll do some some arpeggiations, and then mostly just arpeggios, scales, different tonguing of scales. Da 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 da. Every 2 or every 4 or every 3 or pretty basic stuff that I should have probably done like a long time ago. But,
so you're saying that you didn't, so when you were coming up and you were, friends with Josh Redman and those cats, what were you working on then?
I think I just jumped in, like my first teachers. I always had, in the jazz world or in different music worlds, like for my first teachers was kind of all about the music in a way. So I remember, I don't even think I didn't even tongue notes. I think the first year I played, I was doing all breath attacks.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I was, it's just like I was just playing the songs.
Right.
It was just getting into it more musically, and I was around people that were inspiring to me musically. And so I can't, I get frustrated about it, but I think it's like partly my own, it's them and me, but no, I wasn't around a scene that was very technical. So it allowed me to be creatively inspired, but it wasn't like, hey, attack this note. How classical is more demanding?
Yeah.
It has its advantages.
This is, because I did all the school and everything, and I kind of like where that kind of fails students or that approach.
Yeah.
And it's not just people that go to university or go to music school. It's just maybe people that go to take lessons from somebody who is in
like
that system.
Yeah, maybe they get
and
uninspired.
Like, I don't get it.
And then they end up quitting or something, right?
End up quitting, or just a lifetime of frustration.
Right.
And I think there's so many people out there like that.
Yeah. The problem is, I guess what you might be getting at, or what it's making me think of from what we're saying, is that it seems like it's more important to get it into your head first, what you're trying to play. Get inspired about, say, how a saxophone player plays or how a certain note sound, and then sort of figure out how to get it out of the instrument. But when you're working only on technique, you're not getting it in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's sort of backwards. It's sort of like, maybe it's that Suzuki. I never had Suzuki, but like the Suzuki method where you're hearing the song first, and so you know what you want to sound like, and then you're just sort of making it happen.
And
the reading is a big block. Like, I stopped reading. I was a good reader because I played piano,
right?
So I could read really well, and I think for some people can read the music and keep their ears fully engaged. But I think I sort of got into the typing mode of reading, and I would disengage from like the deepest part of listening. And so like probably about 10 years ago, I've maybe read on 1 or 2 gigs, and you don't lose it. You can read, but it's like I'd never learned a song by reading it, and slowly my ears just open. I just hear more and more shit in the music by not reading. It's like, and in the sound of your horn, you hear details like. No, it's fun when you can play with somebody and. And you can sort of show each other tunes too, like
check out this.
I'll walk the bass line. Like, I would rather play a gig. We do that a lot with the Honey Drops. Like, we'll even have a crowd of like 1,000, 2,000 people, and we'll just be making the tune up. We'll make tunes up on stage, or something that Les wants to do. He'll be showing the guys the changes or the bass line right on stage, I mean, I've never found that it's a bad experience for the crowd to be learning it right then. They love it. They love watching the learning process, and everybody's so afraid, and so they run to a book to try to look right and look professional. I would rather play with guys that are comfortable with, let me just walk you through these changes a couple times through, even on the sax, and then when you have them, I'll switch to the melody. And let's just teach each other songs. People enjoy it, and we're going to make a better musical conversation than I don't want to be like really reading. And you show me a tune and just like sing the whole thing through or play it on your bass or whatever, and then I'll take the head once I got it. And I prefer that.
Yeah, where it's a good place to learn more about the California
group.
Honey Drops and
Yeah.
music and maybe see you guys live.
Yeah,
you know?
we have a bunch of stuff. Our website has all the links at the cahoneydrops.com.
Okay.
That has like to the YouTube videos. But you can also just type us into YouTube. There's tons of videos. We have a bunch of stuff on Spotify. You can do a Pandora station with the Honey Drops. So you get a lot of cool, a lot of places.
Let's stop there.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot.